Welcome, everyone, to Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Rearden, and I'll be your coach this evening. Today, we're going to be focused on a workshop about teaching and learning, so you want to stay tuned for that. If you are familiar with who I am, what I've done in my life, then you will know that I'm a former educator. I went to school, got a master's in education, went off to be a teacher, left teaching in 2016. 2018, that's when I started my coaching career. During that time when I was teaching, I was able to mold into a better teacher, to a better person. And it's not so much that it's impossible for other teachers. It's just the way I looked at teaching. And I'm sure there's wonderful teachers who are able to do that. And we're going to be talking about them. And I'm going to be giving some examples on other educators that I've worked with, teachers that I know personally, and how they teach. Because when it comes down to how we learn, we need to understand that fact, because if we don't understand how we learn, how can we grow? Of course, no two people are going to be the same. And we do have to find out what works for us, because what works for you might not work for me, but it could work for a good majority of people. That's why people might recommend a book to say, this book changed my life. You read the book and it doesn't change your life. And you say, well, if it changed your life, why didn't it change my life? And it goes back to perspective, and it goes back to how we learn. So today's workshop is going to be focused on how we learn and then the problems with learning. We're going to be tackling that during the workshop. Today's workshop is going to be teaching and learning. How can we learn in schools? How can we learn out of schools? Because learning just doesn't end when we graduate, whether that be from kindergarten, high school, or college. You don't need a college education to be successful. Heck, you don't even need a high school education to be successful. However, there are going to be requirements, certain jobs, they will require you to have a high school education or at least something equivalent. So like a GED certification. How we learn, we need to focus on, well, what are the areas or the methods used to teaching? And we can go into the psychology of teaching and all the different methods from all the gurus and philosophers, but we're going to skip that today. That can be another workshop, that could be another podcast. But today we're going to focus on the three main areas of how people learn. And whether you're an auditory, hands-on, or a visual type of learner. Those are going to be your three key focuses. And you might know right now, oh yeah, I'm a hands-on learner. I learn best when it's hands-on. Well, I'm an auditory learner and I learn best when someone tells me something. Maybe you're a visual learner, like myself. And you need to see something in order for you to start to make sense of everything. So going back to these types of learning, how important is it? Because if I didn't know how I learned, how can I learn most efficiently? When I was young, second grade, third grade, I would always daydream. I would always think about playing video games or think about what I'm going to do when I get home, if I had to play with some friends or to ride a bike, go to the park. I wasn't concerned about what school had for me. I was more concerned about my life. But I'm a visual learner. So if I don't pay attention in school, paying attention to the teacher, looking at the whiteboard, reading the book, how am I going to learn? And I won't, because that is not how I was structuring myself. Whether it be that's my fault or the teacher's fault, I mean, that's going to be up for discussion. And then, yeah, it could be my fault. But we want to make sure that we understand what type of learner you are. So if you're an auditory learner, learn from listening to audiobooks, listening to teachers, professors, podcasts, wherever you need your information from, and get it, hold on to it. If you're a hands-on learner, look for people who can train you, teach you, show you the ropes, and you can get work-life experience. Visual people who watch videos, you can, of course, be hands-on also with people showing you something and you just watch them. And it took a while for me to realize, hey, I'm a visual learner. How do I learn? How do I become a person who can become educated from sitting at a desk, right? Especially if I didn't want to pay attention. So I had to learn how to use my learning skill appropriately. And now it has evolved to something grander than just looking at a teacher or looking at a video or looking at a book. Because now my visualization is deeper. Where if you tell me something, auditory learning, I am able to visualize it in my mind and then put it out. Same thing with hands-on. You show me, then I can visualize it in my mind, push it out. But that takes a great amount of skill. So there's many methods too when it comes to teaching. We can be there could be classroom education. You can get education from tutors, jobs, books, workshops like this, seminars, or you can just browse the internet and your computer, maybe your smartphone, for information. But is that information solid? Is that information going to be something that's true? Is it going to be something meaningful? We don't know, right? How much time do we waste on our smartphones every day? Whether it be looking at YouTube videos, maybe you're watching HGTV videos, learning how to repair a home or how to decorate, or maybe you're watching Food Network videos and you're learning how to cook. But what happens if you're not? What happens if you're watching Samurai Jack for the 15th time? I can guarantee you're not going to learn martial arts. So there has to be some way we learn beyond the methods. Because there's a problem when it comes to teaching and learning. Because we need to understand that if we're giving you information to learn, to take in, are you learning this information? Of course, in the school system, we call those assessments. We call them tests. We say, well, we need to make sure you know this information. So we give you a test on it. We say, okay, you passed, you failed, figure it out. And on top of that, recently, now we have to go and figure out if the information is truthful and honest and has no agenda. That is going to be a fight in its own right, because we can't change, we can't change the education system. We can't change the educators. If someone has a belief that something is happening in the world that they believe and they want to teach it to the youth, to the students, they're going to do that. I know college professors right now who push agenda. You need to get the vaccine. You need to get the booster. You need to like Joe Biden. You need to appreciate the world you live in, because global warming, in 60 years, the world's going to implode. There's a lot going on in their minds, but they teach that to you. And subconsciously now, let's look at what happens when a college professor that you're paying to go to this class is telling you, hey, this is a problem. You need to do this. You're going to heed what they say a little bit more than if you would someone like me just tells you what's going on. Because I know what goes on in the brain. That's what I went to school for. I went to school to learn how people learn, how people understand, remember, educate the psychology of the human brain. That's what I did. And it has never been more prevalent, where people have opinions and their opinions are now becoming the information that is being told in school. And that's on top of the standardized tests and the testing. So two-prong attack that we have to deal with. Because we have a simple education model. And the model is going to be, you start off as a student, you become an adult, and then you become an educator. And the educator doesn't mean that you're going to be a teacher or you're going to be someone in the realm of, I have to take care of these people and educate them. When you are wise. Let's call it wisdom. You have experience, you have world experience. You can tell someone, hey, I did this, it didn't work. But there's a problem with when you're an educator. If I failed in life at something, let's say I wanted to be a supermodel or a movie star, and I did everything in my power to be a movie star, supermodel, but I failed. So now I have a limiting belief in my head, in my mind, and I want to not have that in my mind anymore. I'm going to hold the truth in my mind saying, well, becoming a movie star, becoming a supermodel is going to be difficult. And if any student of mine wants to join that same type of ambition, they're going to have to go through that said difficulty also. But for me, since it was already a limiting belief and it was very challenging, I'm going to say, you know what? It's not possible. Don't worry about it. Just do something else. It's going to be easier for you. Trust me. I've been there. Just because you're an educator doesn't mean you're going to be spouting things that are going to promote positivity and development. So we need to focus on student and adult learning, because if we learn from our elders the good things, the wisdom, the knowledge, that's good. But when we learn the limiting beliefs, that actually stops us down. So we need to have a quality control type of learning system. A little bit about me, founder of Reven Concepts. We have to understand that just because it was always done a certain way doesn't mean that is going to remain the best method. What I want to do is I want to take learning, take the system, how we learn, how we educate ourselves, and fill in the cracks, because there's going to be cracks. And if you don't believe me, think about what you wish you learned in school. Because if you have a yearning for something that you're supposed to learn in school, why didn't school teach me about banks? Why didn't school teach me about stress management? Why didn't school teach me about relationships? Because that's not part of the plan. They have a set of skills that they need to teach you. And after they're done teaching you those set of skills, they give you tests and they make sure you know them. And then you carry on for life. And you might think that my method of going about this might be a little bit awry. If you're a parent, ask your child tomorrow, of course, because it's in the evening, what they learned after they get home from school. Some of them are going to be able to answer. Most of them are going to say, I don't know. We did math, we did some English, we did some coloring. Because we need to understand, if they're an auditory learner, they might just be listening to certain things. But what happens if they're not paying attention? Same thing with visual or hands-on. If they're more hands-on, of course, they're going to be there and they're going to say they did things. And that's going to be good for you, the parent, to understand, okay, my kid is an auditory learner. My kid is a hands-on learner. My kid is a visual learner. Because then you're going to be able to propel them into greater success just by simply understanding how they learn. And then we go back again. What did you not learn in school? What do you wish you learned in school? Because we have a lot of information that we're given in schools, and we're taking a test, and we take a test, and after the test, we get an A or B or whatever the score we get, and then we forget the information. So it's a little bit of counterintuitive. We spend all this time learning to take a test for the test to make us feel a certain way, because at the end of the day, we're going to feel a certain way. I feel confident. I got an A. I'm so smart. Then you have the other people who didn't study. Maybe they don't have an ambition for learning. Doesn't matter. But they're going to be having a limited belief. I'm no good at taking tests. I'm not smart. I don't like school. It's a problem. So we need to find a fix to fix the education system, to fix how we learn, how we educate. And if we don't, we're going to be doing a huge disservice to our youth, the next generation. These young minds are going to be the leaders of society eventually, one day. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We can't live forever. We can't continue to be leaders for them after we're gone. They need to take up the torch, the mantle, and become the leaders that they were supposed to become. So we need to mold them into leaders. We need to show them how to educate, how to learn, how to operate. But if we don't make changes, what happens? And I heard a wonderful quote: tough times create strong men. Strong men create easy times. Easy times create weak men. And weak men create tough times. And that's very powerful. Because if you're strong, you want to give your kids a easy life. You have the misconception in your brain, I'm going to give my child the life I never had. And maybe dad or mom said you couldn't get candy or you couldn't go to the movies. And you say, I'm not going to be a parent like that. And you're not. And you're easy on your kid. You baby them. You coddle them. You fight their fights. There's a time to fight their fights, but it's not every day. Because when you do that, you take away their challenge. When you take away their challenge, they become weak. And when they're weak, they're going to have a hard life in the end. And for me, I grew up in the ghetto. And I want that for my children too. Not that they need to grow up in the ghetto to get that type of learning, but to have that type of challenge. How can I make sure they have a challenge in their life? Because a parent wants their kid to be successful. They want them to be healthy, all those wonderful things. But there has to be something that is focused on the education fix. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But in the meantime, if you are having any questions about this, coachingasession@gmail.com, or head over to my website, revenconcepts.com, to inquire about doing some more work about that. Let's dive into all of the stuff that was happening in the workshop, because it's a lot. My method, how I learned. When I was beginning my teaching career, started at 18. I was president of the music club at my community college. I taught people how to play guitar. 2 years later, I get a job coaching swimming. And I know how to swim. I know how to do freestyle, knew how to do the breaststroke. Backstroke was pretty easy. Butterfly, not so much. And I thought the doggy paddle was a real stroke. I remember when my boss, I was teaching someone how to do the doggy paddle, and he was like, we don't do that here, right? It's a swim school. It was an Olympic prep sim school where it was a no joke, and the price was no joke either. You paid for results and you got results. So the people who came wanted their kids to learn, and they wanted their money's worth. So even if I knew how to swim and I can say I know how to do this and I knew how to do that, I didn't know how to teach. I'm 18. I didn't go through my coursework yet for becoming an educator. I had to do trial and error. I was watching other instructors, et cetera, et cetera. But then I took about 6 months, found like a little zone. And that zone was my education zone, my learning zone. And I started to pay attention. How do they learn? Because now I have a 2-year-old, and then I have a 9-year-old in my next class. What's the difference? And I was able to figure it out. And I could teach any age, because every age requires a certain type of finesse. Every age requires a certain type of teaching method. Because I'm not going to teach a kid that's 2.5 the same I'm going to teach a 13-year-old. They are different. Their mind is developed different. They're thinking in a different way. And if you don't know how to teach different age groups, you're not going to be successful. And of course, there's going to be teachers who find one little steady area. So you might have middle school teachers. They teach middle school, 6, 7, 8. That's it. They learn that age group. But if you bring them down to kindergarten, they might have a difficult time. It's going to be easier time, but they might have a more difficult time. Or bringing those same middle school people up to college. They have to learn the difference. How do they learn? How do I need to teach? How do I need to approach this type of education? I'm fortunate to have a vast array of an education base from kindergarten all the way to college. Because now, from that development, I'm able to learn or understand, how do adults learn? And now I have people contacting me, wanting to work with me, coaching sessions, and they have an array of problems. We're not going to get into the problems. That's not this podcast. But we look at the beginning, we look where they are, and then we find the end point, the result. And it's easy for me, but for them is a difficult task. But why is that? It's because I understand how people learn. I understand how people are going to move. There's a cause and effect in education. If I say something to you, it either builds you up or breaks you down. We need more building up in our education system. We need to develop programs. We need to develop teaching methods where it's not, I'm going to read a paper or I'm going to do a set of skills that you're not going to use when you're an adult, but I need to teach them because they're on a piece of paper. And then here we are, people talking about critical race theory. That wasn't one of the things I wish I learned in school. And the reason why I say that, I'm a Black man, is because the challenges that I had to go through made me who I am. Weak men are going to create tough times. So easy times are creating weak men. So right now, we are in a time where everything is easy. We have a smartphone that can tell us everything we need to know. We have food on the shelves. We have the government helping us out if you need help, government assistance. It is no better time to be weak, or no easier time than to be weak than now. You don't have to go out and hunt for your food. You don't have to go out and fight for your survival. You get in your car, you go from A to B, and then after you go to B to A. You're back home, your comfort zone. You got your Netflix, your Hulu, your popcorn, your sodas, and you're complaining about what the Kardashians are doing. That's not life. That's not living. And that's going to keep you stuck. So we can continue talking about education. We can continue talking about learning, but there is going to be something that has to be spoken about. How do you learn? Where do you get your information from? If something is broken and you know it's broken, why are we not trying to fix it? Because it seems like if we're told to do something, we say, okay, well, I was told to do it. And that is the structure of school. Sit down, be quiet, do as I say. And then at the end of the day, go home, do your homework, repeat the process until you're done with school. And then you have a choice. Go out into the work world, continue your education, or to be a deadbeat. And most people don't choose to be a deadbeat. Most people fail and they fall and they just can't get back up. Whether it be for a substance abuse, whether it be person, circumstance, medical, they might have a reason for being there. But we do have to understand people. We do have to look at them more than just, oh, this person is a certain race or a certain age. Where are they? And then to understand where they are. No matter who I had in the classroom, we always started from step one. And we said, okay, where are we? Step one. And let's progress all the way through the steps to completion till we get to the top. And you might stumble around step 4, 5, 6. And I have to, as an educator, figure out why you failed. Because No Child Left Behind was only 80% of students. So that means 20% of students are left behind. So now I'm left to figure out, how can I get this 20%? How can I be 100% efficient in what I do? That's where I tackle making sure I'm giving examples of being an auditory, visual, and a hands-on type of learner. Even in my coaching sessions, you're going to get all three from me. Now I'm going to figure out which one works best. I'm not even going to tell you that I'm doing it. It just happens. Similar to how I taught in school. I'm not going to tell a child, hey, you're a visual learner. You need to pay more attention. No, I need to make learning more enticing for that child so they want to pay attention, because learning wasn't fun for me when I was a visual learner. The teacher didn't grab my attention. And I had wonderful teachers, but it wasn't until I realized that I'm a visual type of learner, did my grades go up? Did I start to retain knowledge better and more frequently? We need to start to focus on that too. That is a big component to educating and to making sure the next generation is going to be equipped with the knowledge base that they need. Not this fluff of, oh, we're going to learn trigonometry and you're looking to maybe have a career in cosmetology. And you might need numbers, right? You might need to look at a face and say, oh, okay, well, this is half the face, 50%. And okay, this is going to be the radius. We could do that. Very possible. But when you have a skill, when you have an understanding of your craft, all that mumbo jumbo kind of goes out the window. And then people are going to say, how did you get so good at this? Your students are amazing. What's your method? The method is paying attention. To pay attention, start from step one and pay attention. Every child is going to be different. Paying attention to each one of them. I know it's difficult. I understand. I was there. When you're up in the front of the classroom, teachers, you're looking at each one of them constantly. At the end of the day, you should be exhausted. And you look at their eyes, you look at their work. And then once you figure out what works for them, keep the process going. Teaching and education, where we want to make sure we're educating the right way, we're focused on learning and also making sure we don't give our opinion. Because at no time did I say, you need to believe what I believe in school. I would always say, it's your choice. You have a choice. We can make it work. We don't have to make it work. But they had the power. And once you hit a certain age group, allowing them to be adults, Fox adults, is a huge motivator for them because now they're responsible. They have to take responsibility rather than mom or dad taking responsibility. They are in charge of their future, their destiny, and they know what they want. And some students are broke down and beaten, and they might be down and out, and you just have to be their hope, their light. So fill in the cracks, figure out how they learn, and leave your opinion out of it. If your opinion is negative, it doesn't even belong in the school, number one. Number two, if you are thinking about positive growth, things that are going to help them, pay attention to how you operate, what you preach, how you live your life. Because you might be 50 pounds overweight. You know what? Let's go 100 pounds overweight. They see that. They might think you're an amazing person, but they see that. You don't go to the gym and get a trainer who's out of shape. You get a trainer who is going to be in shape, looking good. I want to be like you. You're my goal. Teachers, role models, students are there and want to be like you. Not so much what you have in your life, but your knowledge base, your passion. That is what a good educator is. And sadly, the education system, teachers have been chained and shackled down and handcuffed to a curriculum, to a school system that doesn't promote creativity like it used to. Now it's standardized tests, take these tests, do as I do. And parents are stressed out because they have to protect and provide. And they're told by mainstream media that they have to do this and that, otherwise they're going to lose their livelihood. Well, guess what? Now the parents' beliefs are onto the children. And it doesn't even have to be about politics. It could be about just simply livelihood. I saw a video the other day. There was a hunter. He was out hunting and he was hunting a deer. And it was a father who came up to the car and said, "Hey, why are you hunting around here?" And he's like, "Well, I have a permit. I'm a hunter. And I am going to hunt a deer so I can butcher it and eat it for the winter." The father was like, "Shame on you for this." And then the son or the kid who was next to him was yelling profanities, top of his lung, toward this man. And I understand there's going to be a different upbringing for every child. I understand that. But where did this child learn that language? Friends? From the household? Kids read energy. People read energy. But kids more so than anyone else. And whenever I went into a classroom, whether it be kindergarten or college, I always set the tone. If someone wanted to argue because they had a bad day, I set the tone. I never went to their level. They always dropped down to mine. And my level was always cool, calm, and collective. And that's where we need to be in education. That's where we need to be in life. So we can make the best choices. So we can have a clear mind that is focused on growth and positivity. My name is Michael Rearden. If you haven't, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all those things that videos like. I will see you again on Friday for our next podcast, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Until then, everyone, take care.